Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
All-Star Toyota presents Off the Bench.
This is what we have been waiting for. The hype is over.
Off the Bench.
Yeah, they said I got to come off the bench.
Now, here's Jacob Hester.
Welcome in hour number 3 here on a Wednesday edition of Off the Bench. Taylor Sharp here with you, sitting in for Jacob Hester. He is out at SEC spring meetings, which we're going to get into in a little bit. Greg Sankey took to the mic actually yesterday to open things up at SEC spring meetings. And our guy had a lot to say the least. You know, the big topic of conversation out there has been the changing of the college football playoff format, and they're just going to go with a straight seeding model instead of like conference champs, automatic qualifiers, like that sort of thing. So there's been a lot of discussion on that. We'll play some audio from Greg Sankey. He had quite a few things to say. Now, the thing about Greg is he started out so strong. Like, he started talking about how people are complaining that the SEC and the Big Ten want to ruin college football because they're going to benefit from it, and it's what's best for the SEC, not necessarily what's best for all of college football. And then he points out that it hasn't benefited the SEC. And I kind of agree with him on that, because you go look at the BCS. I mean, what was it? It was 7 straight national titles in the BCS era, going from Florida in, '06, LSU in '07, back to Florida, all the way through, really until Florida State beat Auburn in 2012, 2013, whenever that was. So it's always been the SEC. You saw it in the 4-team playoff. The SEC did really well there as well. And then last year in the 12th team, the first year of the 12th team, the 2 teams playing for the national championship weren't even in the SEC. And then a year before that, it was Michigan and Washington, neither of those teams in the SEC. So I agreed with him on that. It's just a bunch of things after that, which is what he said. We'll play the audio on that in just a few minutes. We're trying to get in touch with Ross Jackson right now of Locked On Saints. We're going to talk to him for a little bit. But before we do that, we were talking about the Saints running. Oh, actually, I think we have Mr. Ross Jackson. We do have Ross Jackson. All right, let's bring in Ross Jackson right now of Locked On Saints. Also writes for us right here at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, how are you this morning?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing great. Thanks for your patience. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the time. Look, man, we have had internet issues for 2 days. Yesterday, during the middle of the show, we completely lost internet. The weather's been awful.
Oh.
I totally get it. That is not on you. Look, Ross, OTAs are underway for the New Orleans Saints. Gonna go just start super broad here. You can take this whichever direction you want. Maybe just your biggest overall takeaways from being out there at OTAs.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're, of course, watching is the quarterback competition,
yeah.
Right? And so I think as we're watching that, no decisions are going to be made during OTAs, but you get the opportunity to start to kind of see where the starting place is and what the growth looks like after that. And so we saw, Spencer Rattler off to a fast start, which makes sense, has more NFL experience. Technically, on a per-play basis, also has more collegiate experience than Tyler Shuck, more than 600 more snaps than Tyler Shuck in college, more than 300 additional passing attempts as opposed to Tyler Shuck, or as compared to Tyler Shuck in college. So you saw sort of the experience of the operation, getting in and out of the huddle, being able to run the offense, commanding the offense, making quick and precise decisions as well. I think all of that sort of stood out. I think that the other 2 kind of big takeaways would have been, taking a look at where things were with the offensive line, seeing Trevor Penning moved to the inside, giving them Calvin Banks and Taliesin Fuanga over on the outside at tackle, and then, looking over at this kind of new defensive scheme and where things are. But one last thing I'll mention was just kind of the vibes, right? Like some part of this too is not just about what happens on the field. It's, what's the kind of mood in the clubhouse? How's everybody feeling after a 5-win season and all these other things? And I would say that like the vibe of practice, the vibe of the building, the vibe of the locker room was very, very different. One player telling me that they feel that they're headed, taking steps in the right direction with this new coaching staff. So you can kind of feel a little bit of the promise and optimism that should be there at this point in the year.
Ross, obviously there are players out there that'll stand out, but as far as like maybe any negatives, was there something you like thought was going to look a little bit better than it has?
I don't think so. I think that is one of those things that maybe comes together a little bit more in training camp. During this time, what you're really seeing is like 7-on-7s at best. And then you're seeing, individual drills based on the position, maybe some walkthrough or run game install and things like that. So there's not really a lot of the opportunity to kind of put anything under so much of a microscope that you go to the critical side of it. I will say that like the Saints having 5 players that, aren't available because of injury right now, maybe could give people a little bit of pause. But it's worth remembering that like 2 of those players, Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau, they're coming off of injuries from last year. Quincy Riley's dealing with an injury right now that was a post-draft procedure, but something that pre-existed his selection. And really the only, and Dallin Holker's dealing with something that happened earlier in the offseason as well, or earlier, away from the team, or not away from the team, but, early in the offseason. And then you have Jake Haener, who was injured in practice, dealing with that oblique injury, and he's probably going to be out for OTAs. But nothing super severe. And the majority of the things that they're dealing with are things that pre-exist, OTAs. And so I think that even that has a little bit of context that even if you start to feel a little bit concerned about it, has some context that maybe makes you feel a little bit better.
Ross, earlier you were talking about you kept an eye on Trevor Penning. Obviously, his move to guard is something that a lot of people have talked about. With him moving to guard, that O-line, you got Fuaga Banks, you got Penning, Ruiz, Eric McCoy. How good could this O-line potentially be under this Kellen Moore scheme? Like, could this be a strength for the team in 2025?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Kellen Moore in that, because I was going to say I think that offensive line can go as far as the coaching will take it. I think that that's the big thing about this. Is if Trevor Penning pans out at left guard, you've got 4 first-round picks and a first-round grade guy in Eric McCoy, who just happened to fall into the Saints' lap in the second round during his draft year. But as a part of that, and sort of figuring out where this team can head next, it's really going to be about how the scheme complements the players and how the coaching complements the players. And I would have high hopes for that, looking into where this is headed, because I like the approach that the coaching staff is taking. I had a great conversation with TJ Paganetti, who's the Saints run game coordinator, kind of a new position for the team. And he spoke a lot about, to put it frankly, one of my favorite things that he said was, we don't put players in positions that suck. And I think that's just as important a part of the equation as the individual players are, is don't put them in bad situations and don't put them in positions where you're asking them to do something that maybe they struggle in that technique, or maybe they're not as successful there, or they could be doing it a slightly different way, but you really want them to do it this way, not getting married to those things. So I think that the lack of ego amongst the coaching staff in that way will allow them to be able to better adjust things to complement what it is that offensive line, whatever configuration it takes, but in particular, if that's the configuration, just finding ways to better complement what it is that configuration of offensive linemen can do, it would be massive. And so that, I think, is the other big piece to this as well, is, what is the coaching staff going to ask them to do, and how well do they coach it up? How do they coach it up? And then that's really going to be the thing that raises or drops the ceiling on what it is that these players are going to be able to do, regardless of the offensive line configuration.
Ross Jackson joining us right now. Ross, yesterday on LouisianaSports.net, you put up a little piece on Clyde Edwards-Helaire talking about, his chances of making the team. Kind of broke down the running back depth chart as well behind Alvin Kamara. What are your thoughts on Clyde? Like, could he be a weapon in this offense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's one of those guys that has like the versatility to kind of be able to do everything. He can run between the tackles, he can get outside the tackles, he can catch passes, and he's a solid pass protector. If nothing else, he's a willing pass protector. It's going to be challenging for him just based on the fact that there are so many running backs in that room right now, and so it's an uphill climb no matter where you're starting in this situation. But I think that those elements of his game. And then in addition to that, the veteran experience that he brings, he's the second most experienced running back going into his sixth season behind Alvin Kamara. I think that those things all kind of complement what it is that he should be able to bring, or not necessarily complement, but kind of elevate what it is that he brings to this team. And so I don't know if he makes it on the active roster. I don't know if he makes it on the practice squad, but I do give him a pretty fair shot at being one of the 53 plus guys to end up making the roster. The big question is going to be how many running backs they keep on the active roster, because right now they don't have a fullback rostered. So do they utilize that position or that piece somewhere else, that spot, or do they intend to utilize that as a point of keeping a fourth running back? It's going to be interesting to see how they utilize that, even if that player is inactive on some games. But I do think that he has a chance if there's 4 running backs kept, or if there's 3 running backs plus additional on the practice squad, he's got a chance to make a swing at one of those spots.
Sticking with the running back room, I mean, you mentioned the crowded room, right? You have Kamara, Edwards-Helaire. You brought in Devin Neal and Marcus Yarns, the rookies. What does the future of Kendre Miller look like in New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, it's an uphill climb for him too, right? That's one of those big things where, he was drafted by a different coaching staff. He's had injury issues that have kind of kept him off of the field, and it's all been kind of different injuries, different things and everything. So he's got an uphill climb, but he also has a blank slate, which I think is helpful. You add Bayless Jones Jr. to that room as well as another veteran guy, ex-Valaday, who was with the team last year. Like, there's a lot of these guys in this room. And so nobody is really walking in to a roster spot in this room except for Alvin Kamara. And then maybe you can make the argument for Devin Neal since he was drafted by this coaching staff. I also think Devin Neal is going to be a good NFL player, so I would give him that roster spot for that reason. But Kendre is going to have an opportunity here to prove that kind of the perception that's been built around him under that previous coaching staff, a team that was dealing with injury all over the place, everything like that, isn't really a perception of him. It was sort of a perception of his circumstance or his situation. He's got a real chance to kind of change the course of that conversation here this offseason.
Ross, switching to the defense here a little bit. You were talking about, looking at the scheme under Brandon Staley, but big topic of conversation has been the Saints secondary because, there are some pieces you have to replace there. What's that group kind of looked like?
Yeah, I think on the defensive side or defensive secondary with the corners, I think is kind of where the biggest question mark is right now. I think your safeties are going to be set in Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reed. The question will become, who's that rotational safety that maybe comes in for dime sets and things like that? Does that remain Jordan Howden, or does a guy like Jonas Sanker, who is a part of this year's draft class, end up stepping into that role? So it'll be a little bit of a battle there, I think you'll find. But when it comes to corner, right, you're having to replace Marshawn Lattimore, who was traded away last year. You're having to replace Paul Sinadibo, who signed with the New York Jets this offseason. So you've got Kool-Aid McKinstry as a guy that I think is, a lock in one of your outside spots. And then Alontae Taylor is going to have a role. Maybe that's outside in base packages, and then he moves inside at nickel. We'll kind of see how it is that Brandon Staley decides to use him. But I think keeping him maximized would be keeping him in the slot in some way, where he's allowed to be a disruptor as a pass rusher, as a run defender, in coverage, threatening at the line of scrimmage, playing near the line of scrimmage, all these other things. So I think you want to find a way to do that. So then that opens up sort of that outside corner spot in at least in nickel packages. And so right now, that's Isaac Adams' spot. He's the guy that came back. He had a great 2023 with the team, where the team was having to circumvent injuries at the position, and he played really well there. Went off, spent a year in San Francisco with the 49ers, where Brandon Staley, now New Orleans Saints defensive coordinator, was the assistant head coach. And so those two got some opportunity with one another. So now they bring that back here to New Orleans. But now you've got Quincy Riley, who you've also drafted out of Louisville, who I think is a really talented player and is going to be a starter at some point. I just don't know if it's going to be week one. He's one of the guys that's managing injury right now or managing rehab right now. And so we'll see when he gets back, but that's going to kind of be the battle for that other spot, I believe. And so we'll see where Quincy Riley ends up kind of contributing. And then the other name to watch isn't on the roster yet, but could be on the roster, and that's Asante Samuel Jr. Brandon Staley and Asante Samuel Jr. go back to the Chargers days. Asante was part of Brandon Staley's first ever draft class as a head coach. He's on the free agent market. He had a neck procedure earlier this offseason, set to be checked in July. If he's cleared from that, I expect that the Saints, who have already had him in for a visit, would at least show some interest there. So you could see another player that gets added to that sort of jumble and to that battle for the Saints in their secondary.
Ross, before we get you out of here, as far as like what fans should keep an eye on, obviously taking Kelvin Banks out of the equation, who appears to be a day one starter, like, are there any rookies out there to keep an eye on that you think these guys could play early?
Yeah, Danny Stutzman's just so much fun to watch all the time, man. The Oklahoma linebacker, he is just a ball of energy, brings a lot of energy to a team, all these other things. You know, on a show that we did recently, former New Orleans Saints wide receiver Lance Moore mentioned that, like, there's no year requirement for leadership. You just kind of have to have the time on task for sure, but you've also just have to have the personality that people are willing to rally around. And his personality is a personality that people are willing to rally around. And so I'd definitely be watching out for him. And a guy that I think is going a little bit under discussed right now is defensive tackle Vernon Broughton. Him coming in, I think people were kind of surprised because there were other defensive tackles on the board and everything, but there's a connection here between Broughton and Bo Davis, Saints defensive line coach. They work together over in Texas. He's kind of getting the treatment of, you know, an early rotational player that's playing at nose tackle, moving outside to 3-4 defensive end. He's kind of getting a lot of these different opportunities. So he'd be another one, number 91, that I'd be watching as well, just to kind of see if he ends up turning into one of the surprise contributors for a lot of people out of this draft class, because he's at this sort of unsexy position and is a name that people aren't really talking about very much.
Ross Jackson, you can catch his stuff at Locked On Saints as well as see his articles right here at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, thanks so much for the time this morning.
Thank you, man. You take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you here soon. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. That right there was Ross Jackson. All right, we're going to take a timeout. When we get back, Greg Sankey had some interesting comments at SEC spring meetings. We're breaking it down next here on Off the Bench.
Off the bench.
CentralPlumbing.org, CentralPlumbing.org, 225-925-8552 is the number. Give them a call, 24/7, 365. Game day, weekday, holiday, does not matter. If you have an emergency, they will be there. And not only in Central, Greater Baton Rouge area. Now, they can help you in Central for sure, but Greater Baton Rouge area, we're talking to you. If you've got an emergency, Central Plumbing will be out there. They are ready. You'll see on the homepage of centralplumbing.org, the fleet is ready to go and ready to help. If you want to go tankless with a tankless water heater, obviously, you never run out of hot water, which is just a huge benefit. You got a big family like me, you're getting home late, you got dishes, laundry, showers, whatever. You never run out. You don't have to wait. You don't have to try to save that hot water because, again, tankless, never going to run out. Bathroom remodels, all right there on the homepage, centralplumbing.org. Again, 225-925-8552.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Welcome back to Off the Bench.
Welcome back in. Hour number 3 here on a Wednesday edition of Off the Bench. Thanks so much to Ross Jackson for hopping on with us. Talking a little Saints OTAs, as there is just a ton of news coming out of New Orleans all the time this week. Okay, SEC spring meetings currently taking place, which is where our normal host, Jay Kester, is currently at. Look, we're gonna try to get some interviews that Jake did sent back to us. We may play them tomorrow. Jake may hop on. I'll be in discussion with him throughout the day. And you'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out just how that looks. So a little bit earlier, I was talking about, Greg Sankey, him saying, look, the 12-team playoff didn't benefit the SEC. I agree. We saw it with the BCS, 7 national championships in a row for the SEC. The 14 playoff, we saw it there as well. But the last year of the 14 playoff, it was Michigan and Washington. This past year in the 12-team playoff, it was Notre Dame and Ohio State. None of those are SEC teams. So all this talk about, the new scheduling format in the 12-team playoff, like the Big Ten and the SEC are only interested in improving their conferences, not just all of college football. I think Greg Sankey hit that on the nose in terms of, hey, look, it's kind of always been this way with the SEC, and the 12-team playoff didn't necessarily benefit us. Here's where Sankey loses me, though. We're going to play this. This is from Greg Sankey yesterday when he was talking about what it takes to make the college football playoff. I was all on board until this right here.
One of the things you learn is you're not going to divorce your regular season schedule from college football playoff selection. In fact, I think there's more of a feeling that regular season scheduling is governed by college football playoff selection. Witness the discontinuation of a series. This isn't critical of Troy, it's critical of the reality that, hey, you can drop a big series and it's not going to hurt you come selection time. You have a team that played 4 games against teams with 6-6 records last year that got in. Another team didn't play. Really anybody at the top of its conference was selected in. And it's clear that not losing becomes in many ways more important than beating the University of Georgia, which 2 of our teams were left out did. Nobody had that kind of quality wins.
First off, Alondra, could you chill with the typing whenever Greg Sankey?
That is all I got from that video. Is somebody is typing
vigorously typing,
like very aggressively in that clip. That sounds like T-Bob in the mornings. Like when I used to walk in here, T-Bob would be typing.
He loves a clacky
just
keyboard
like that. Oh my god, that is all I got out that clip.
I just thought it was funny. Like people in the car are probably like, "Who's typing?" Really? No, that was on the actual audio clip that we played. Somebody in there doing their job.
Wow,
a little bit too aggressive. But I'm gonna kind of reiterate what Greg Sankey said right there because I just think he's off base with this. Greg Sankey said, it's clear that losing becomes in many ways more important than beating the University of Georgia, which 2 of our teams that were left out did. That's true. Look, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, they were left out. Bama and Ole Miss both took down Georgia. Obviously, he's referring to teams like an Indiana, like an SMU. But you know what would have helped those teams get in? Not losing 3 regular season games to crappy teams. Alabama beat Georgia, sure. A 24-17 loss to Tennessee, who made it to the college football playoff but didn't do much there. Gave up 40 points to Vanderbilt in a 40-35 loss. Vanderbilt wound up not being that great. I remember that. And then they go on the road to Norman and get stomped 24-3 to the Oklahoma Sooners, who had trouble adjusting to the SEC in year 1. I remember they weren't that great either. Sure, Alabama beat Georgia, but you gave up 40 points to Vanderbilt, who lost, 5 games this year? Oklahoma was a middle-of-the-road team. You lost 24-3 to them. Couldn't even score a touchdown in that game. And then let's go to Ole Miss. They beat Georgia, but you know what else they did? They lost 20-17 to an awful Kentucky team. They lost at LSU in overtime, 29-26. Maybe if they take that game, their fortunes are a little bit different. And then a 24-17 loss to Florida, who's also worse than Georgia. Kentucky, LSU, Florida, 3 of Ole Miss losses. None of those teams were in the college football playoff this past year. Maybe don't lose 3 games. Rebels did beat Georgia 28-10, but your season, you should look at the season as a whole, not just beating the University of Georgia. How about South Carolina, who I actually thought was the best of the 3 teams that were ultimately left out? They played really well down the stretch. They beat Clemson. They did a good job at the end of the season. They lose early in the season to LSU at home, 36-33. That was the game that LSU escaped in. South Carolina had LSU on the ropes and just refused to win that game. Every single factor went against the Tigers in that game, and somehow LSU still came away with it. That's a game you should have won. Again, LSU, good team last year, not a college football playoff team. So you could say, okay, well, South Carolina had a good win against LSU. They didn't even play Georgia. And I thought that they were playing the best out of them, Ole Miss and Alabama at the end of the year. But it's hard to justify putting South Carolina in when they lost head-to-head 27-3 to Ole Miss and 27-25 to Alabama. So bad losses for Bama and Ole Miss, Florida, Kentucky for Ole Miss, Vandy and Oklahoma for Alabama. South Carolina doesn't have a bad loss. Their losses are 3 points to LSU. You lose to Ole Miss, who was in the playoff conversation. You lose to Alabama by 2 points, who was in the playoff conversation. So they definitely had the best resume as far as bad losses, but can you really put in South Carolina when they lost head-to-head to Ole Miss and Alabama? I get what Greg Sankey's trying to say. What Greg Sankey's trying to say is strength of schedule no longer matters. And I agree with that. I don't think strength of schedule does matter anymore with the college football playoff, especially now where they're just going to go straight seeding as far as ranking teams in the top 12. It's just going to go straight 1 through 12. I agree with that. But let's not act like beating Georgia was held against these teams. It was not. Beating Georgia is what put these teams in the conversation. There was a multiple things you could have done. You could have not lost 3 games. If you're Alabama, you could have not given up 40 to Vandy. You could have not gotten your butt kicked 24-3 to a bad Oklahoma team. And if you're Ole Miss, you cannot lose to Florida and Kentucky. You can't do it. And you went on the road and lost the game to LSU in overtime. If you win that game, maybe your fortunes are a little bit different, but how about not losing to bad teams? Maybe not losing to bad teams would have helped Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina get into the college football playoff. Now, were Bama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina better than Indiana and SMU? Maybe. I would even venture to say probably. But putting a team in because you believe they're better is so biased and subjective. I remember when this college football playoff was put together. The common phrase used was settle it on the field. How can you do that if these teams don't get an opportunity? How can you say settle it on the field and you look past the on-field performances? You say, oh, well, Alabama and Ole Miss, they have 2 bad losses. They've lost 3 games. Hey, but they beat the University of Georgia, and Georgia's pretty good. Let's throw out the rest of their season, the rest of their results for all their games. They beat the University of Georgia. They should be in the college football playoff. If that's the case, why are you playing the other 11 games on your schedule? Just go play Georgia. If you beat them, you're in the college football playoff. If you don't, sorry, you're going home. You're watching the college football playoff on the couch. I get what Sankey's trying to say, but to say that, oh, not losing is more important than beating the University of Georgia, he's right to an extent. If Alabama and Ole Miss don't lose to crappy teams, if South Carolina beats one of Ole Miss and Alabama, they get it. These teams did it to themselves. It was nothing about, oh, well, poor us, we play in the SEC. South Carolina didn't have to play Georgia. I mean, they had a pretty easy path. All they had to do was beat one of Ole Miss and Alabama, and they couldn't do it. So, sorry, not sorry, Greg. It is what it is. Don't complain about having a tough schedule in the SEC, because the SEC does have a tough schedule. The teams that Ole Miss and Alabama lost to were not tough teams. All right, look, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, Doug Thompson, former LSU pitcher, also does the color on the baseball broadcast with the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. Doug's going to hop on with us next for a little LSU regional preview that's coming up next here on Off the Bench.
Off the Bench.
All right, go to trashrangers.com. Trashrangers.com is the website. And remember, we told you yesterday, going to remind you again, for Memorial Day, there is not going to be a delay in service. All routes will run as normally scheduled on Friday and also on Monday, which is Memorial Day. So enjoy the holiday. They have got the trash covered. Another great service you're going to get. And if you are one of the lucky ones that has the ability to have Trash Rangers pick up your trash, well, you get all the benefits. You get pickup on Memorial Day. You get a text reminder that, hey, tomorrow's trash day. Don't get in trouble. Go put your trash out. I wish I had it, but if you're lucky enough to do it, why would you not do it? You can sign up for residential and commercial service right there on the bottom of the homepage. Roll-off dumpsters, 3 different sizes to choose from. Give them a call today. Get everything set up, 225-363-9053.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Welcome back to Off the Bench.
Welcome back in. Hour number 3 here on a Wednesday edition of Off the Bench. Just 2 more segments left. Want to go a little bit back to LSU baseball right now. Doug Thompson, former LSU Tiger pitcher. You can also hear him on the broadcast with the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. Doug joins us right now. Doug, how are you this morning?
Doing well. How are you guys doing today?
We are doing good, Doug. You're on the call this weekend, right?
I will be. We'll actually have a 3-man booth. It'll be myself, Chris, and the one and only Buzzy Heidel.
What a trio that is. Doug, let's get into it here a little bit. When the NCAA tournament was announced, everyone talked about how much they loved LSU's draw here in the regional, that being paired with the Clemson regional. So if the Tigers get through that, they would host the Super in Baton Rouge. How favorable do you think LSU's draw is in this tournament?
I don't really agree, really, with that. That it's that favorable. I mean, Arkansas State, it's kind of a shocking team to enter. I mean, it's a great story. It could be a 30-30 how they went. They lost 13 of the last 14 and then win the conference tournament. I would say that they're the weakest team. But you start looking into that. Their ace is coming back this week. He threw lights out last week. And they have a bunch of seniors and redshirt juniors on their lineup. So I know the guys, not only, Coach Jay Johnson, his staff, I know they're not taking them lightly, regardless of what the general population consensus is on how great they are. They don't hit it well. They haven't pitched it well. But again, they lost their guy, and he's back now. And then, this other Rhode Island team, they could swing it too. They hit 310 on the season, of course, not the SEC. I get it, right? But still, they hit 310 on the season. They've got 4 guys with double-digit home runs. And, of course, we all know Dallas Baptist is a bugaboo and certainly can swing the bat. They've got some big arms, including a former Tiger in the mix there. So, look, postseason baseball in college is awesome. It's fun to watch because you never really know what's going to happen. Yes, I think that I guess there could have been worse teams and worse draws. No, I do not think it's the toughest regional, but you can't take anyone lightly these days with the transfer portal and the ability for these smaller programs to literally roll out 9 guys over 23 years old into the field and then have a couple of those guys coming out of the bullpen on the mound. So you really can't. You got to play every game like it's going to be a one-run battle, in my opinion.
Obviously, you were talking about Jackson Wells as the ace for Little Rock. Let's say LSU does get by Little Rock. It'll either be Dallas Baptist or Rhode Island will be the next opponent. Who do you think is a tougher matchup for the Tigers?
Like I said, I mean, I think Dallas Baptist is the tougher matchup, but they both can hit. They both have some dudes with some homers, a couple dudes even close to 20 homers, I believe, if I remember correctly. I guess I'd prefer to play Rhode Island with that 6.20 team ERA. But, both teams will be formidable in Game 2, which and probably Game 3 as well, right? So, which I think is potentially a reason that Jay Johnson and the staff would consider quote unquote throwing off, meaning not throwing 1 or 2 tomorrow night and taking a chance against Arkansas State, hoping the bats will take care of business. And then, you're sitting really nice having, two of one of the best 1-2 punches in the country, if not the best 1-2 punch in the country, ready for Saturday and Sunday.
What are your? I'm glad you brought that up. Like, what do you think maybe the chances of Jay wanting to throw off, with Little Rock pitching off a little bit? Because I remember back in 23 when LSU won the title, a lot of people thought Jay was going to do that against Tulane with Paul Skeens. He throws Skeens in that first game. What do you think the chances of them pitching off this regional is?
I think they're probably talking about it. I think the good news is that with the brilliant move I thought of throwing Anderson and Einstein the other day, in the SEC tournament, it kind of opens up the potential for either of those guys to be on the hill for this opener of the regional. Kind of leaves everyone guessing, right? Had he just gone Anderson then Einstein the next day, I think the answer would be a little bit more clear. But he has that option to roll either one of them out there tonight, or he could think about throwing off. And I thought Jaden Newt threw well. I thought Chase Shores threw well. Him and Myers averaged 100.1 miles an hour on their fastballs, which is crazy. They both hit 102 in that game, the last game that we actually lost on Saturday. So, yeah, I think it's risky. It's risky to not go out there with your number one in tournament play. It's a cliche, and everybody knows it's a cliche that you're just setting yourself up for failure or potential failure. But again, because of the ability for these next two possible opponents, Dallas Baptist and Rhode Island, their ability to swing the bat, because that exists, I don't know. I think this is one of those times where you would certainly consider it. To answer your question, though, what do I think the percentage is? 50-50 that they throw off tomorrow.
All right, well, I mean, something to keep an eye on. Former LSU Tiger pitcher Doug Thompson joining us right now. Doug, let's say that LSU does survive this regional. They'll host the Super in Baton Rouge. That's the Clemson regional. So it's Clemson, West Virginia, Kentucky are the top three seeds there. What are your thoughts on maybe some of those matchups? Who do you think maybe matches up best with LSU?
Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I haven't looked that far down the road. They're all tricky. They're all programs that could come here and certainly beat you, including Kentucky. So that next round, as it should be, as it will always be, is going to be a difficult round. It's huge, though. I mean, it's huge that it's here at the box because no matter how you slice it and dice it or who you bring here to the box, it's always been and will always be, good Lord willing, tough to win 2 out of 3 at Alex Box Stadium. And that's what it comes down to in that final weekend. And we've got 2 of the best front-end arms in the country. And that's kind of the things that I'm focused on, regardless of who comes here. What are our strengths? Number one is Alex Box. I'm telling you, man, when they go to the bullpen on Friday or Saturday night and they crank up Garth Brooks, calling Baton Rouge, and they pull out their ace, there's something about that energy, especially in the postseason. And I have a feeling it's going to be absolutely packed for this round and next round. Tigers have missed the regional last year. Tiger fans dying to get there. It's the best part of the year, of course. I hear the weather this weekend will actually be a little bit better in terms of heat. It won't be that hot, maybe even some relatively cool temperatures for this time of year. So everything's set up for a great run over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks for the city of Baton Rouge and for this LSU baseball program. But I know one thing for sure. Jay Johnson is focused on today, practicing his team, preparing his team. His staff will continue to prepare tonight for not only this game, but the next potential 2 teams that they could play. They're going to be watching those games and collecting as much information as they can. They're some of the best in the country at it. They're some of the best I've ever seen. Those guys are in, sleeves up, 24/7 mode right now. And I can promise you, Jay Johnson's teams, regardless of what happens on the field, they will be prepared for their opponent tomorrow night.
Doug Thompson. Doug, thanks so much for hopping on with us this morning.
You're the man. Thank y'all. Have a great week.
Absolutely. That was Doug Thompson right there, former LSU Tiger pitcher. You can also hear him on the LSU Sports Radio Network. On the call, you heard it, he, Chris Blair, and Buzzy Heidel, all 3 on the call for the regional this upcoming weekend. All right, we're going to step aside. When we get back, we're going to wrap it up like we do every day with some Ask the Bench.
Off the bench.
Or go to All-Star Toyota of Baton Rouge.com. All-Star Toyota of Baton Rouge.com. Buying new, leasing, renting, everything is available in all 3 of those processes. So no matter what you need, they're going to have it over at All-Star. If you need a full-size SUV, mid-size SUV, van, truck, hybrid sedan, whatever, they've got it. And we are here in the month of May at the very end. Today is the last day for everybody. Most people already out of school, but today certainly is that last day of school. So maybe you're going on your trip this weekend. Maybe you're waiting until next week, but it is okay. It is not too late to rent a Toyota from All-Star. Call Miss Lisa Sessions today in the rental department. Get it all reserved up. Per day rental prices, fantastic prices as well. Something that we always mention, the deal they have at All-Star is incredible. So per day rental prices, everything is available. Again, All-Star Toyota of Baton Rouge.com.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Off the Bench.
I walk along the city streets you used to walk along with me.
Welcome back in. Final segment here on a Wednesday edition of Off the Bench. We'll end it right now like we do every day with a little Ask the Bench.
Hang on. We got a little bit of time.
Okay, what we got?
I want to revisit the Macron
Oh,
thing
yeah,
real
the
quick.
Macron thing.
Jordan, do you have those pictures?
Well,
Jordan.
yeah, I have on my phone, not
Well,
on my
email
email.
them
Yeah,
to
I'm about to
yourself.
say, no, I didn't email them to myself yet.
Jordan.
Don't blame Jordan for
I'm
ruining
blaming
the
Jordan.
segment
Well, I
and
thought we were
possibly
doing
the
Ask
entire
the
day.
Bench. Yeah, I thought we was doing Ask the Bench.
But you should have had them ready either way because you
Bruh.
knew we were going to revisit this.
I'm thinking we was about to just wrap this bad boy up
Okay,
and get up
this
out of
this
here.
just ruined it because I need the pictures.
Okay, when he we'll wait for him to pull it up.
Yeah.
All right, Alondra, ask the bench favorite tailgate food.
Boudin egg rolls.
I do love some boudin egg rolls. What's the boudin? So Lachine and Denim has like these boudin balls that you can get. It's really good. All right, interested to hear yours on this one. Ask the bench.
No.
No?
Is it the JFK question?
Yeah.
I can't give my true answer to that.
You can't give your true answer to that.
No, but I can tell you off air.
Well, so it's.
What's the question?
We can actually do a
Who
little.
shot JFK?
We can actually do a little extended thing on this tomorrow if we want. So
Yes.
my last year of college, I basically had to go an extra semester for one class because like they wouldn't let you take any of the prereqs in the same semester. So I had to go, and in order to stay full time, you have to take 12 hours. So I
Yep.
took
I know
sports
very well.
history, a basketball class, and I took a JFK assassination class as my free history.
What?
And the teacher, he was this older guy.
Okay,
God, I wish I could remember his name. He has 3 published books on JFK, and like the entire semester was devoted to that. And
Okay.
I got to learn a whole lot about it. It was really fun.
Okay, here we go.
All right, what do you got, Jordan?
Jordan has these pictures pulled up.
Well,
so
which one do you
hold
want
on, go to the guy with the glasses first. That one. No. That one. So Brigitte Macron has a brother named Jean-Michel Trogneau. This is her brother.
As anyone would.
This is her brother. Jordan, you can pull it up. This is Brigitte's brother. This is the last picture
Put it
that
full
we
screen.
have.
Put it full screen.
This is the last picture that we have of Jean-Michel Trogneau, who is Brigitte's brother.
Okay.
So you got that pic. Pull up the picture of Brigitte Macron now. Not like I'm not telling you now, but I'm saying like I didn't mean that demandingly.
No, it's fine. We knew what
It
you
sounded like I was like, pull it up now. But this is Brigitte Macron.
The one with the glasses.
The one with the glasses.
Okay.
So that y'all have Jean-Michel in your head. This is Brigitte Macron. Okay? And I get siblings look alike.
Yeah.
But then, okay.
That kind of just looks like
here's this.
somebody put a wig on Jean-Paul.
Jean-Michel Trogneau had a son. Pull up the one, that
Middle
one.
one.
That one.
Got
Yes. Has a son. So this is Brigitte's nephew from her brother.
Okay.
And then pull up the picture of Emmanuel Macron. They have
Side by side.
You could do the side by side, yeah. No blood relation to each other. That is Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte's nephew, who has no blood relation, allegedly, to Emmanuel Macron. So
This is the first time I've ever actually seen Emmanuel Macron.
I need the radio audience to look up these pictures
Yeah.
because,
Guys got to visualize it.
yeah. But anyway, Jean-Michel and Brigitte look a lot alike, which, yes, they're siblings. Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte's nephew look like they're siblings.
Yeah, they look like twins.
So, yeah, I mean, that's where I'll leave it at.
Yeah,
y'all can open up that can of worms in your own time, but that's my little tiny
So for the people listening, just
dive.
imagine.
Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah, I guess you can imagine him, but imagine like a Mormon coming to your front door to try and offer you to join the Mormon church.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like greasy looking, like he might rob you a little
True.
bit. That's what he looks like.
Yeah.
And he looks like he has a fascination with F1 racing. I don't know why, but that's the image y'all need to put.
The guy in the red?
Yeah, no,
I agree.
He looks like he just knows all the F1 racers. Oh, yeah, Mercedes-Benz this year, they're going to be nasty.
Like we were talking about the Indy 500 earlier. That dude lives for the Indy 500.
Oh, 100%. Just looking at him, just like, yeah.
There it is.
Good stuff.
The Emmanuel Macron story just continues here.
I'm telling you, look it up in your own time, and you're going to be like, whoa.
It just continues here on OTB. I love how Alondra's so dedicated to her craft. Like, she is just...
Don't get me started on Veronique Drew.
I don't even know who the hell that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm about to say, this is just a whole bunch of, what is this?
Basically, Jean-Michel, disappears for a few years, and then this woman named Veronique Drew appears at... Okay, anyway, I'm getting too deep into this.
You're getting too... All right, ask the bench. This is a little bit of a lighthearted one. It's not as big of a thinker. Pancakes or waffles?
Ooh, man.
It depends who makes them and where they're from.
Some Waffle House waffles, though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that's the
what
thing.
beats that bad boy.
This will sound like a fence-sitting answer. I think the best waffle is better than the best pancake, but on average, I think pancakes.
No, you know what? I like that take.
I think.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
Because, dude, with some good waffles, man, that is just some good pancakes, though. I love them both. That's like saying, you like water? Yeah, I kind of like both of them. So,
ask the bench, fried eggs or scrambled?
Scrambled.
Oh, Jesus.
Scrambled.
Fried.
Fried, easily.
I mean, it depends on what I'm like with my fried eggs on, though.
No, it's the answer's fried egg, Jordan.
I like a fried egg on like a burrito.
Okay, be honest. Did you pick scrambled because it's the only kind of egg you can make?
Yeah,
it's okay if that's the answer.
I honestly, I've only eaten fried or scrambled. Fried or
You're looking at someone who is not exactly a master of the culinary arts in his own right.
Like
so
sunny side, I don't know how to make a sunny side egg. No.
So do you know what sunny side up is?
Here we go.
Like egg yolk,
Yeah,
right?
no, I talked to you about this. So sunny side up, you don't flip the egg. So you leave it, it cooks through the bottom.
See, that's
so it's
weird.
almost like searing it on top, and it cooks on the edge. Sunny side up. Sunny side stays up.
See, that makes sense.
Over easy, one flip. Over medium.
So is over easy a fried egg?
Yeah, it's just cooked a little more.
Okay, all right. Now we're getting into that breakfast lingo. I'm not a big breakfast person. I'm not gonna lie. More of a lunch. Yeah, I'm the guy that 10:30. I wait till 10:30 to go to the fast food spot, so I know this.
No, I get it. Breakfast is probably my least favorite meal of the three. Tell you what, a good stack of pancakes though, man.
Ooh.
All right, ask the bench. Supreme pizza or one topping?
Supreme.
I'm trying
but without
with my
the
pizza.
olives.
Yeah, I don't. Keep all that vegetables, all that green off my pizza, man. Either meat and cheese.
Okay, so you're just a meat lover.
Either meat lovers.
Jordan
it can
loves
be like.
meat.
Chill
He
out.
does.
He's a meat
Whoa,
lover.
If there's anybody who knows meat,
lover.
it's Jordan.
He just said you're a self-proclaimed meat lover.
Whoa.
You're
Jordan,
like, I'm a
Jordan
meat
calls
lover.
himself a little bit
we
of a
gotta put some
meat
pauses.
expert, if you will.
No, we gotta put some pauses in this. I specifically pizza-wise, yes, do not pass me no pizza with no olives. Like my sister likes onions on her pizza. Get that out of here. That's a
So you're
monstrosity.
just all meat all the time.
No, I gotta have a little bit of green in your diet.
I'm actually pretty basic with my pizza. Shocking, I know.
Meat and cheese,
I'm
baby.
good with like a 1 to 2.
Meat lover Jordan.
A 1 to 2 toppings good with me. We know where Jordan's loyalties lie in terms of his pizza. All right, fun show today on this Wednesday. We'll be back one more day on Thursday. We'll get a little update from SEC spring meetings that's coming up.
Off the bench.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.